Good morning. Hello and welcome to episode number 92 of the RDO podcast with Jason and Alex on Canal. As always, powered by Auto Bros Used Vehicle Wholesale. I'm going to give you a quick apology at the beginning. My voice is a bit croaky this morning and I'm hoping it holds up the whole way through.
And I'm going to give you another apology, or I'll give an apology for any YouTube watchers that noticed that I had a light obscuring the video. That was my fault, my bad. We tried a different rig this morning, which is even worse.
Yeah, like we've said before, we're trying to come up with some upgrades and some solutions, and we attempted an upgrade last week with the lighting, which we ended up obscuring the camera partially with. Shout out to having no producer. We do have some other stuff coming.
Yeah.
So, speaking of shout outs, also going to give a shout out to repping the Broncos, Brisbane Broncos. 3 straight wins as of this week. Looked bloody good doing it too. I don't know the statistic of when the last time was that the Broncos have had 3 wins in a row. I don't remember when that was. So, played really, really well. Smashed the Rabbits. Was really surprised about the odds before this game.
Right.
The Rabbits are paying $1.25 to win. Broncos paying $4. That's a big odds difference for the NRL. Considering the fact that the Rabbits have not been playing well. Last week they barely beat Manly when Manly had lost a player to not the sin bin, but sent off after 9 minutes. So Manly played 71 minutes, a man down.
Right.
And I think the end score was like 40-22. There's no way that Manly should have scored that many points.
Right.
And Souths also only rolled over the top of them towards the end of the game when they were a bit more tired. So Payne Haas was out, which is our best player, but I think that the Broncos surprised a lot of people, and we will continue to do so because we're starting to build now and we're looking pretty good.
Well, I'm going to counter that by saying it sucks because I was here late last night doing deals and I got stuck in the traffic to go to the game because I've got to drive past the stadium and there's no way around it.
Wasn't last night though. Must have been something else.
No, something else.
Broncos game was Thursday night, played down in Sydney. So,
well, that wasn't it then.
Be pro Broncos then. Send your heat somewhere else.
I thought I'd give you a quick update on the Ferrari.
Cool.
So last night, one of the jobs that I had to do was actually funny. I had 2 appointments booked for 4 o'clock on 2 different cars. The Europeans came in 5 minutes before, and the Aussie came 45 minutes late.
Yeah,
and
pretty typical.
I had to go pick up. We dropped the Ferrari off at our mechanics, at our Ferrari mechanic to do a full inspection, make sure everything's all good. Anything that needs to be done, we're going to do. And he shuts at 5 o'clock. Anyway, 4:45 rolls in, and the bloke that is late walks in the door as I'm walking out. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry I'm late." I'm like, "Don't worry, you can make it up to me." He's like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "Well, when you leave, you can drop me off at my mechanics." So I got a free Uber ride to go pick up the Ferrari, and the mechanic said it's a great car. So
that's what you want.
We did all the fluids yesterday, so oil filter, coolant flush, transmission oil, brake fluid flush, like got all the old stuff out, put all new stuff in. Got the aircon regas because it just hasn't been used. There is an issue with the air conditioning, which is the fan that runs the condenser is not working. So that when it goes back on the 23rd to get all the belts done, we'll get that sorted as well. But his comments were, it's a really good car.
Yeah, nice.
And that's all we wanted to hear.
Yeah, for sure. That's really, really good news. Really good news. So, any of you that are in the market for a Ferrari or
just
know someone who is,
don't get too excited because we're going to keep it for a bit.
But good things come to those who wait.
Yeah. And this is a good one. Yeah. If you're an aspiring Ferrari owner, and you need to put you need to start making some moves to put yourself in a financial position. We've got the right one.
Yeah, if you share the same dream as Alex, his first could be your first too.
Yeah.
So we are going to be speaking about some pretty heavy subjects today, but before we get into those, which is obviously the Roe versus Wade debate and the story that's obscured by that story, which I think I would really like people to understand. So obviously, trigger warning there. It is a news story about a pretty triggering subject for a lot of people.
We won't say the word.
No.
Can we call it something else? Schmishmortion?
Yeah, if you want to. If you do think you're the sort of person who could be triggered by a conversation around it, I ask you to either switch it off or just understand that we will approach this in the best way we possibly can, but there
I don't know what you're going to say, but nothing I'm going to say is going to trigger anyone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it'll just be me then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, I do think that, at least for the beginning of that conversation, I'd love you to stick around for it because it's something that I want to explain.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going to end up, and I want to say to everyone that hang around.
Yeah.
Hang around, and you'll see why. Yep.
Now, on a lighter note, I had a dream this week that I'd like you to analyse for me.
Okay.
And it was very short, but it was a little bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a dream where I had made the decision to join the army and was leaving for basic training.
Mm-hmm.
And the army has a facial hair policy.
Mm-hmm. Which they do have.
So they needed me to get rid of the beard.
That's not their policy, but yeah.
But it went further than that.
Mm-hmm.
It was you could only have a moustache.
Okay.
And I don't mean if you want facial hair, you need to have a moustache. You had to have a moustache.
Yeah, okay.
So every single person at basic training had a moustache.
So I can analyse it, but first I will say that in the military there is a facial hair, and the facial hair thing is you've got a set amount of time to get a proper facial hair. If you don't have proper facial hair, it's got to come off.
Isn't that funny? Because it's like you have to be manly enough to be able to grow a beard, otherwise no beard for you.
Yeah. And that yours is an easy one to analyse. Do you remember this episode of South Park where the alternate universe opens up and the alternate characters had moustaches?
Well, no, they had goatees.
Or goatees.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that changes it. But maybe it's your perception of it because it's like the modern day take on. That was probably a 20-year-old episode.
Yeah, it's true.
And maybe you think that we are delving into a alternate reality, and because it's military based, it's something that you think you need to fight against.
Yeah, interesting. I also thought, like, you could be right there. I also thought that it could have been something to do with the fact that this week the entire family's been sick, just the head cold, but it's Jake's first cold. And dealing with 2 kids, the idea of going away for basic training at the army sounds like a holiday. So, yeah, strange dream.
I had one too during the week, and I'm not a big dreamer anymore. I used to be. And I was trying to get on a flight with Tasha. They cancelled our flight, which I know what that's about. That's my cancelled flight story. And then we got put onto a train that was like Tokyo Underground style, just getting jammed in. And then nothing happened. It was really boring.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
In another just brief thing before we get into heavy, and if you have anything else, feel free to add it in. I added another business to my shit list this week.
Yeah.
Which is Youi Insurance.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And to explain the reason why, I had a renewal notice come in for one of the car insurances. So as I've said on the podcast before, one of the things I always do is do a quick online quote with different insurers just to see if I can save some money. And this particular car was already insured with Budget Direct. The price had gone up compared to last year. Not an obscene amount, but had gone up. So I went to Budget Direct first, did a quote. The quote online was actually more expensive than what I'm currently paying with the renewal, so that's fine. Went to Allianz, they were more expensive, that's fine. And then I thought, I'll try out Youi. Because I've tried Youi before in the past, but I was under 30 living in Labrador. It was through the roof.
Right.
Because Youi prides themselves on, being more specific to your cases, therefore can save certain people more money. So I thought, now, homeowner, living in a better neighbourhood, over the age of 30 with literally 0 insurance claims my entire life, maybe Youi might be good. Now, they've got this exact same setup as everyone else. Like all the Budget Direct and Allianz, everything online that you just go through, fill out details, and you get a quote. Youi appeared to be exactly the same from the beginning, but there was a field on the quote screen which allowed you to put in your mobile phone number and your email address. And I'm like, at this point in time, there is no point in giving you my mobile number.
Because I just want to see a number on the screen.
I want a number.
Sure.
So I thought I'll put in my email address because they might email me the quote just as the other 2 have done. Fine. So go through, fill out basic details of the car, get through to this, it's like the 3rd page, and it says, you now need to enter a PIN that we've sent to your mobile. And I'm like...
But you don't have my mobile.
You don't have my mobile phone number. But Fortunately for me, it had a field there to put in my mobile number. Now, we use these sorts of pins as two-factor authentication every single day for services we're signed up with or have an account with. I'm not signed up or have an account with these people.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm like, okay, I still want to proceed forward. So I put my mobile number in. It sends me the pin to my mobile. And then I put the pin in and log into the next page. Literally at the start of the next page, it says, okay, now it's time to talk. One of our representatives is now going to give you a call to talk you through the rest of this process. So I've got the function on my phone, which I turned on shortly after leaving the motor industry, which is block unknown callers, because getting phone calls at all hours of the day, especially the amount of scam phone calls that, remember how I said during COVID, that just went through the roof? So it actually blocked the phone calls. So 2 phone calls, quick fire, and then I got a text message. And the text message said, hey, it's Mitchell from Youi. Just tried calling you about your quote. Call me back on this number. Otherwise, when's a good time to chat? So I replied saying, hey Mitchell, I was expecting to be able to do a quote online as it was not obvious that a phone call was required. I feel the section of your website which requires a PIN to be sent to your mobile is a deceptive business practice designed to secure my mobile phone number. Do not call me again, as I do not wish to do business with Youi, and please remove my mobile number from any database it is now attached to. Following on from that, I got another text message later on that day from a different phone number from Youi saying, hey Jason, your Youi quote is ready to look at. Crack on through and get a 10% discount at the other end. And then they proceeded to also email me a quote. So, in other words, what I said about it being a deceptive business practice is exactly true. Because they already had enough information to send me a quote, which is why they sent me another one regardless.
Yeah, I think it's a twofold thing. I know for a fact there's a lot of stuff happening where people are, like companies are using software to scrape competitions.
Like databases?
Not databases, but their websites.
Right.
So you could create a bot, for example, that could just go put quotes at all your competitors, and you can get an understanding of what the pricing is, and you can make sure that you're cheaper. So the two-factor authentication stops that. Or stops a lot of it. But that's really cheeky.
It's really cheeky.
That's really cheeky.
And I
because all they have to do is make the phone number a mandatory field on the first thing, and that gives you the option.
Or at the beginning of it, when it says get your quote online, say we have to call you to do this quote.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, this might sound like I'm a hermit. If I wanted to speak to someone, I would have spoken to someone.
Yeah.
I would have called them. I used to sell insurance. I know how to fill out all the details to get a quote. I used to do it for a living. So I don't want to speak to someone. I just want to be able to quickly go through, get the quote, as the service suggests that you'll be able to do without them then securing the phone number. And what I think is relevant about the next conversation that we're going to have is the reason why salespeople want your phone number, typically, is because there is a percentage of the population which find it really difficult to say no to people once they're actually speaking over the phone. It's a lot easier just to get a piece of paper with a number on it and walk away than it is to have someone telling you how good a deal it is that you're getting and then say no to them, not to their face, but over the phone. And they understand that. It's easier to secure someone's business when you're actually speaking to them.
See, I had the opposite. Like, as a customer, and I went through I was trying to get someone to do something for my business, and they only want to do it through online forms.
Yeah.
And I'm gone down completely the wrong path. It takes 3 days to get a response, and I hate it. I just want to ring someone, and I want to have a conversation with someone so that I can sort out what I want.
So you as the customer.
As the customer.
But as the customer, you have made the choice that you want to speak to someone about it to sort it out.
Yeah. I think what we're saying is there should be both.
That's right.
And now the other argument I'd make too is if you're going to do it all online and digital, because this is an interesting thing that happened to us yesterday. I was big on addressing problems or dealing with opportunities right here and now. So if I got a phone call from a customer, I'll do everything I can right then and there.
Yeah.
Now, not every time you can do that. Sometimes you have to take the number and call them back. No one rings back these days.
Yeah.
So we're looking for tyres for the Ferrari, and we walked into a place yesterday that Nugget had gone 5 days ago to get a quote. Availability on tyres because it's got an odd tyre size. And we walked in, still no call, and they said, "Oh, who are you dealing with?" "Oh, don't know." Like, it's not really my job to know who I dealt with. It's your job just to. Yeah. And then Nugget leans over the table and goes, "It's written there. Like, that's my name, that's my phone number, that's what I'm after. So just refer to that. Nothing written around it. You can still tell that nothing's been done."
Yeah.
So what I don't like about all this online stuff is that all you're doing is delaying. You're delaying the response, and a lot can change in that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the product. Obviously, tyres for a Ferrari are very different to an insurance policy.
It's not.
It is though.
It's not. Well, I'll tell you, it's all the same click down bullshit that every form is. Click. So here's your parameters.
Yeah.
The only difference is dealing with it now or dealing with it later.
Well, it's not, because when I have set up, like, whenever I do insurance through Allianz and Budget Direct, when I get to the quote point, you can literally just go, "Yep, go ahead with that." You can sign it up for yourself on the spot.
Yeah.
If you're happy with it, you just sign up yourself.
That's what tyres are, man. 245, 45, 18s. 275, 40,
True, yeah.
18,
so it should be, in other words, it should be that simple if you're doing an online form saying, "Order these tyres, please."
Correct. So,
but as someone who's worked in the motor trade and dealt with the spare parts department before, it's never been an easy process.
But don't make excuses.
I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that it's not a good system and it never has been.
With the this is everyone's system. This is where technology has not worked in people's favour. It's worked against you. It's made it worse.
Yeah.
If there was no technology, you would have sat there with the client and pulled out an old book and flicked through until you found availability, and you would have said, "Hey, hold on the line, I'll make the call," and you would have dealt with that client so they're in and out straight away.
But even better, you wouldn't even have to make a call because you'd be accessing an online portal that works. It shows you whether something's in stock or not.
And this is the
there's your opportunity part, suppliers. Just make it easy.
None of these Thai guys have realised. The odd thing about this Ferrari is that it's got different size front tyres to rear tyres.
Yeah.
Okay, so not all brands make the same tyre for front and rear, these different sizes, and it's a bit of an oddball size because it's 22 years old. So no, the forms don't let you split the tyre size. So open two browsers. And have them both, because they're going, okay, so I can get Bridgestone, or I can get Pirelli P0s in the 245s. Okay, let me check the other one. Reset the form, and then they can't remember what else is there.
Yeah.
Open two forms, dude. Like, that's how we do it. The client shouldn't be better than the person.
100%. Yeah, and that's the key to standing out in business these days. Is literally just being able to provide the service that you claim to provide.
Yeah. So, and someone on my shit list is Google. So someone at the gym smashed my phone screen, and I went to go and get it replaced. $530 to replace the screen.
Nice.
And now the fingerprint scanner doesn't work. And it's not the repairer's fault, because I've done a stack of research. I did blame them to start with, but I did some research myself.
You're not supposed to do your own research.
Yeah. And it's racist. And Google's got a bug on their back-end system that doesn't let you plug in to reconfigure the fingerprint. You can't reconfigure it.
Right.
It's the software is sitting there ready to go. Yeah, simply do this. Do X, Y, Z. Well, okay, if you can't log into X, then how can you do Y, Z?
Is there some sort of Australian consumer law thing that you can go down, a pathway that obviously the product
this is not over.
Oh yeah, it shouldn't be for $530.
This is not over. But it's not their fault. It's not the repairer's fault.
No, I'm not saying it's the repairer's fault. But if it's like, I mean, you see the stuff in the motor industry a lot of the time when an independent repairer is trying to repair a product but don't have the computer system or software released to be able to do that. Like, this stuff comes up a lot. So I'd say that there'd be a pathway that you can go down to. Say it's, I don't know, like, because
Alex von Cannell versus Google.
Yeah, the ultimate David versus Goliath.
I've got more time than you do, Google.
David versus Googleiath.
Yeah.
All right, so
are we going to talk about Schmishmortion?
Yeah, let's go into Schmishmortion. So now, I think I'm just going to start this off by briefly outlaying the things that people probably don't even realise about this particular situation.
Before we even start, is this just purely an American thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
so we shouldn't care that much.
This is part of what goes towards the direction I want to, not the direction I want to take people, the thing I want people to really focus on. So, what's the actual story? The story is this. There was a leak this week that a long-standing federal law in the United States, which was based on a case called Roe v. Wade, which made abortions legal. Shushmoshmans. This is your trigger warning for anyone who is triggered, but just stick with me for at least a few minutes. It made them legal on a federal level, which meant every state it was legal to get a shushmoshman.
Yeah.
Now, this week there was a leak from, I think it was the Supreme Court justices, which are deliberating on overturning that ruling.
Sure.
And the leak was the opinions of the people making the decision, which essentially it appears that they are leaning towards overturning it. Therefore, what happens is it removes that federal law, and then the rules become governed by the states, the individual states that you're in. So, just to clarify, it doesn't mean over the whole of America that abortion is illegal.
Shmishmotion.
Is illegal. I'm just not even going to bother anymore. I'm already too far down. Right. It's not illegal everywhere. It's a state-by-state thing, and obviously it depends on the state that you live in. You can go to a different state if you require the service. I know that has more cost, and I don't want to get into the weeds about what the reality of the situation is going to be. But here's reality right now. It hasn't actually been confirmed yet, and it is a leak, which is interesting in and of itself.
It's a nothing story.
It's not a nothing story.
No. The story is nothing.
Yeah, because nothing's actually happened.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That in isolation,
yeah,
it's a nothing story.
Yeah. Now, what I want people to understand is, and I want to be very delicate about this because I know it's a very polarizing subject. What I found fascinating in the last few days is how almost instantaneously my social media field was full of this stuff, with people, women, railing against it, and a few blokes too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of sharing of memes and sharing of very aggressive statements in regards to it. I understand where a lot of the sentiment came from, but there's a really, really key point in this which is used every single time these things come up, which is this. Whenever there is a hot button topic that is launched into the news space and the social media space that requires you to take a side, or doesn't even require you, but it encourages you to take a side, they, and by they, I mean the people who are using the story to suit themselves, are abusing people's good natures.
Mm-hmm.
Because the natural response to this from a good-natured person is women and men, for that matter, should have bodily autonomy. And that's the natural response. So anyone who is deemed to be outside that response, they're automatically the enemy now. But to me, this got a bit worse because a lot of the memes that were shared were not so much about the case itself, but it was specifically targeted at men making decisions for women's bodies. And all that does is creates the divide between men and women. And it happened like that. And on the one hand, you've got women saying men shouldn't have the right to decide what happens to their bodies. Just let me finish. Which I get. On the other hand, you probably have a lot of men who have no intention of trying to make decisions on what can happen with women's bodies, who then feel attacked by some of the memes that were being put around. For an example, there was the one about like there was a meme that went out. It was like some sort of saying from like a what do they call the passages of the Bible?
A psalm?
Maybe, I don't know. But it said like, if thou hast not a uterus, then thou should shut the fuck up, or something along those lines. It was like fallopians. I thought it was funny.
That's funny.
Right? It was a funny meme. I was not triggered by that at all. But what I find interesting about memes such as that is that as much as it relates to the current subject, there's no mention of the current subject. It's literally just saying, if you don't have a uterus, shut the fuck up. And it could be about any subject.
Yeah.
So if you were a male who resents women, which there are a lot of them, because let's be honest, men being rejected by women has pushed society forward forever. So a guy who already has the wrong idea about women will take that as a personal attack that we're just saying you don't have a uterus, therefore shut up. About everything, not about the abortion thing. But the point is this. I believe, this leak happened...
Well, before you get to that, okay, before you get to the crescendo, I just want to address something else. It is the sparking of massive amounts of social Tinder.
Yes.
And we fell for it. Society keeps falling for it.
Okay? Again.
And where I was going to pull you up halfway through is there's no point getting into the argument.
Yeah.
Because it is so... That one in particular, more so than almost any other argument, has so many layers and so many elements that they just tree off into, like, it isn't, like, what's the word? It's an this is impossible to get everyone on the same page.
100%. Yeah.
And it's so easy because when one side is up a bit, that little bit of yield from the other side is going to cause an overreaction.
Overcorrection,
yeah. Overcorrection, yeah. And it's one of the most complicated subjects that and nobody should be buying into it. Unless and the reason why we shouldn't buy into it is because of what you're about to.
Now, can I just to throw it out there too? So as soon as this happened and as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a distraction. This is a key point of it for me. Do you think it's a coincidence that
and don't use the word either. The other word.
I won't use the other word. Do you think it is a coincidence that this leak, again, not a ruling, this leak occurred...
About an opinion of.
Do you think it's a coincidence that this occurred in the week leading up to Mother's Day?
Ooh. Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Can you name any other holiday or event that is in the calendar that would have more of an emotional and psychological impact to release this information into the public discourse around?
The Tinderbox is full.
It's full.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting.
This ain't a coincidence.
Yeah.
And what Alex is saying is right. It is just showing that time and time again, the powers that be, when they want to distract you from something that's going on, they've got these levers they can pull.
Yeah, when you find yourself super overly engaged in something, the best thing to do is just zoom out.
Yeah,
And go, why am I here?
That's right. Because even things like, what I would love to know, and any of you nerds out there who understand how the internet works, if it's possible for you to do this, where did all the memes come from? Because without, overnight, everyone who was engaged in the topic was sharing the same stuff. Who started the memes? I would love to know where they originate from.
I mean, I've started memes before.
Of course. But again, no one knows it. No one knows it came from you.
Yeah. Oh, you could track it for sure.
Yeah. So it'd be really interesting to know.
That's why they need to be on the blockchain, be NFTs, so we can find out exactly.
Yeah, exactly right. But consider this.
But then they would be shared equitably around, and we need to see the memes. I love the memes.
Yeah. But think about this. The oldest trick in the book when it comes to warfare and psychological warfare is divide and conquer. This is just another in a very long list of Tinderbox events that we've had literally in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Because you've got this debate. Previous to this, you had Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, which is not spoken about really anywhere near as much anymore. It's still going on. It's still a bad thing.
Yeah.
No one talks about it.
Yeah.
No one's told to care about it. You had that. So you had the divide between people who stand for Ukraine and people who don't. And again, exact same as this situation in that there is nuance to this and neither side can win that 100%.
It's unwinnable.
It's unwinnable argument, right? Because with everything in life, what we seem to do with these Tinderbox moments, let's call them Tinderbox events, I think it's a great thing, It's probably show title in that.
Yeah.
But what happens is, Tinderbox event is an unwinnable argument that's full of emotion, which
just sets everything on fire.
Sets everything on fire and divides people in groups. Prior to this, it was anti-vaxxers versus pro-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Again, an unwinnable argument on both sides. Yeah. Because if you look at, all of these things are complete grey areas. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
But to have a Tinderbox event, what you do is you pretend there's no grey area, you pretend it's black and white, and if you're not on my side, then you don't fucking get it. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
It's the scene in a movie where two people are like staring off at each other, and like the anticipation of a battle is afoot, and then someone just throws a knife down in the middle of the
yeah.
That's what it is.
100%, 100% it is.
But are you going to tie it to the real thing? Are you going to say what you think it's distracting us from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to.
Any one of you who've been sticking around the channel for this long understands that we've been following the COVID situation very, very closely. I also don't think it is a coincidence that this leak happened on a week during Mother's Day weekend, when also Pfizer was forced to release 80,000 more documents to do with their EUA approval process in America. And what is really intriguing about this, now obviously I have not had the chance to read through all 80,000 documents, and I won't be.
Yeah.
But
our governments didn't.
Clearly not.
Before they approved it.
Mm-hmm.
And our health and safety bureaucrats didn't.
Mm. So a few plucky people have sifted through them, and there are some interesting things that have come out of it. One of which is...
Oh, can we just go back to the assumption that we made when the first release came out, that we thought that it would be from the most harmless information at the beginning of the release to the most damaging of information towards the end?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is that we're nowhere near close to the end.
Yeah, how many documents is it in total?
It's hundreds of thousands of documents.
What about 40,000 in the first dump?
Yeah, I think 80,000 in the second.
80,000 in the second.
I think they've got until July or August to release all of them.
Which seems wild to me, because you just go to the file on your Windows computer, go Control A, and then drop boxes to someone.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, are they just claiming they don't have good enough internet to be able to upload the stuff all at the same time? Now, I'm trying to find...
They can roll out the product faster than they can roll out the reports for the product.
Well, yeah. And this is the thing, getting back to the start of this whole release process, the FDA requested 75 years to release the documentation that they used to justify the approval of these vaccines under the emergency use authorization in 108 days. And the reason why they said that they needed 75 years was because they needed to be able to go through and redact...
all of it.
Yeah, pretty much everything in the documents. Now, why am I...
That was really an ink supply issue more than anything. A redaction ink supply issue.
Now, I'm trying to find a key screenshot of some of the information which has gone missing from my phone.
You've been hacked.
Maybe I have been hacked.
You've heard it here first, guys. We've been...
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there it is.
Now, that's interesting. It was deleted, which I wouldn't have deleted that. So it was in my recently deleted photos. Interesting. All right.
Nate did it. He's a plant.
So there's two key things that have been found out already by people who scan these documents. The number one is probably the easiest thing to be upset about, which is the fact that there's a document which shows that the vaccine efficacy of the vaccine during the trial was only 12%.
Yep.
So you remember back, the headline efficacy rate was 95% efficacy at preventing symptomatic SARS-CoV-2 infection. That was the headline at the beginning. And as we've mentioned before, there's a lot of people out there who keep trying to say, oh, they never said it would stop you from getting it. They absolutely did. I'll put the link in to show you, because Pfizer's first press release is still there on their website. So it said 95% effective. So their own data showed that it's actually only 12% effective, and after a week it goes down to about 1%. So it's not 95%.
Yeah, I reckon you could do more by just like facing away. Like if you just did that, that's probably more than 12% effective.
Well,
at reducing
masks don't work, but they're probably more than 12% effective.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about these things, so because we've said many times before, the vaccines don't work. And their own data is showing that the vaccines don't work, or at least don't work anywhere near what we were told, or how well that we told.
Yeah.
And the problem is there's going to be a lot of backtracking where they're like, apparently we're allowed to excuse all these health officials by going, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
They just didn't know.
But we did, and we're idiots.
Well, yeah, we're idiots. A lot of epidemiologists were screaming till they're blue in the face about whether the vaccines work or not. You don't vaccine in a live pandemic. You get out of it and you vaccinate afterwards.
Yeah.
Because when you vaccine during a live one, you can then, unfortunately, create immune escape a lot of the time. And a lot of the epidemiologists, too, stated the facts that we've never been able to successfully vaccinate against respiratory virus because they mutate too often. So a lot of people saying that stuff right from the beginning. And that's not us saying it, that's experts in the field saying it. You just didn't see them on the internet because they got censored. Now, this second one is way more egregious to me. And it's interesting that it lines up with the Schmidt-Morschman chat. So in the Pfizer document dump, they actually have information about the fact that there were 270 pregnant women that were involved in the trial. And of that, I'm not going to read I'm going to put a link to the document so you can go through and read it yourself. This will be triggering for many people, particularly women, I'm sure. Especially if you've experienced any of these things yourself, so I'm not going to go into it. But I'm just going to give you the raw data. It is not to obscure the truth. You can go and read it yourself. I'll put a link in there. I just don't want to trigger any more people than we need to. Because these are the actual numbers. 270 pregnant women were tested, and 238 of those women went AWOL.
Does it say that? How's that written?
It says...
Because when you told me last night that stat, I was thinking about it after, like what.
In the actual document, it says no outcome was provided for 238 pregnancies.
Right.
That's how it says it.
Okay.
So in other words, out of the 270 women that were pregnant involved in this trial, there is no result recorded for 238 of them.
Yeah.
Now, they could all have been perfectly fine. They could all have been not perfectly fine. The fact is we don't know.
Yeah, maybe they didn't give birth until after the end of the trial date.
You might say that, but there's also some in here there's 5 that were classified as outcome pending, which would be those people, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So, of the 32 remaining, there was only 1 live birth recorded.
That is wild.
1 from 32. That's of the ones that were recorded.
That is insane.
What is really insane about that is the fact that the TGA claims that they read all the data, and I remember sitting in the midwife's office 6 months ago with the flyers out the front about how important it was for pregnant women to get vaccinated against COVID-19. What has subsequently come to light too is that it has been shown that if a pregnant woman gets COVID does not cross through the placenta into the fetus.
Right.
Which I don't think the authorities ever claimed it would.
Yep.
The sales pitch, though, is the antibodies from the vaccine could potentially go to the fetus to protect, to give the fetus some sort of immunity after the fact.
Yep.
Now, obviously these are staggering numbers, and I find this particularly triggering because I know, and this is a very personal thing to us, there was a lot of pressure from many people around our circle for a man to get vaccinated while she was pregnant. Because that's what the doctors were telling everyone to do.
Yeah.
That's because that was what the government was telling everyone to do.
Yeah.
So the TGA was recommending that pregnant women get vaccinated based off that data. That data was released this week.
Yeah.
So if you think that this Tinderbox event happened organically, and again, remembering the key points, it's not the decision being handed down. It was a leak about the opinions of the decision.
Yeah, it's a nothing story.
Which came out in the same week as Mother's Day, which is the exact same week that the FDA is forced to release 80,000 pages of Pfizer's data. Because it's not just Pfizer that is trying to obscure these documents. It is the FDA in America that approved it under EUA.
Yeah.
And
remember, TGA.
Let's play the tape. Go back to when they first approved these vaccines in Australia. We told you the TGA didn't run any of their own trials. The TGA approved the vaccines based off the best data that was available at the time, which was data they got from the United States FDA because of their approval. So the assumption is that they had access to these documents and they approved it anyway. Now, if they didn't have access to these documents, it means they approved it without reading the information, which was also a lie. So whichever way they did it, they fucked up both ways. And again, this, going back to the Tinderbox event, the way that these people become excused is when everyone uses they didn't know. They were just trying to do the best thing they could to save lives. And they're getting back to like the point of this discussion. What you guys really, really need to consider is that idea that they abuse people's good natures to control people. Everyone knows, probably in their network, but everyone probably knows of at least one woman who's been in an abusive relationship and didn't leave. And because she cared too much, right? She cared a bit like, I love him, so I can't leave. Like, we've all seen that happen. It's on TV shows every fucking night, right? We know that's a thing. We know that people's good natures typically get abused by people who understand how to abuse people's good natures.
Yeah.
This happens time and time again. So why are we having this conversation? Because we want to alert you for the next time it happens. We're not making light of the schmushmoshman discussion. What we're trying to educate is on the reason...
Stay out of the Tinderbox.
Stay out of the Tinderbox. And I was explaining sales pitches to someone this week. Because sales pitches aren't what people think they are. So the example like native ads came up. So network television, obviously a news program. Let's start at the beginning. Why does the news even exist? Because it's on commercial television and it's designed to hold your attention so you'll watch the ad breaks. That's the only reason why these shows exist. Why, remember all the stories about Carl Stefanovic getting paid more than Lisa Wilkinson and Carl's on $3 million a year? Why the fuck do you think Carl Stefanovic's on $3 million a year? Because his morning show runs for 3 hours. It's a lot of ad breaks.
Yeah.
So if he can hold your attention for 3 hours, it's probably at least an hour's worth of ads. That's how these shows operate. So already we've got the sales pitch involved there. The second part of sales pitches is that there's always a bit of a misdirect. And where you think the sales pitch is often is not where the sales pitch actually is. And I'll give you an example from when I was selling cars. And this is a product I believe in, but it's a sales pitch nonetheless. Window tint. Whenever I would sell a car, I would explain to my clients that about 80% of the clients who buy cars from me end up getting the windows tinted. And the reason why is because it keeps your car cooler, it offers UV protection. It also has the, if your window shatters, it can help stop the glass from shattering, and there's a safety element there as well. So those are the reasons why 80% of my customers end up going ahead with window tint. And then the ones that don't, typically about half of those end up coming back because what they don't realize is their current car they were driving had tint. You don't really notice how good tint is until you drive a car that doesn't have it. Now, at face value, the clients assume that the sales patch is the reasons the sales pitch is the reasons I gave about why people get window tint. The UV protection, coolness, all that sort of stuff. That's not the sales pitch. The sales pitch was at the beginning where I said 80% of my customers go ahead with window tint. Because as social creatures, we want to do what other people do. Everyone
That's
does
that line hunting that I was talking about the other day.
The what, sorry?
Line hunting.
Yeah.
Walking down the road and there was a massive queue, and then people just gravitate to the back of the queue.
Yeah.
They don't even know where the queue goes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. You think that the sales pitch is over here? No, it's over here. It's the social conditioning that we're doing over here. And that's what happens with all these Tinderbox events. So while the schmoshmoshman debate's going on, I feel like what they have successfully done is instead of making the issue schmoshmoshman rights, they have made the issue men telling women what to do with their bodies.
Well, it's 1,000 things.
For sure.
It's 1,000 things, but it's like...
Everyone can find something to get upset about.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And what I would say anyone that is going to have a conversation with... I would say don't. Don't. It's none of your business.
Yeah.
And until it comes to a point where we need to vote on it, then we probably need to have a conversation. But up until that point, there's... Just don't talk about it would be my goal. But the other thing too is actually have some compassion for the person you're speaking to, no matter who that is. Try and identify what is making them feel the way that they feel.
Agreed.
Okay, because where this Tinderbox moment is more because it's got so many branches on it. When you're not winning in one direction, you just jump on another branch.
That's right.
And this is a unique argument because it just has so many pathways that can go down. So,
and it is so triggering too because schmoshmoshman is way more common than people think because it's one of those things you don't talk about.
Yeah,
it would be like going back to the 90s and talking about being gay or LGBTQ or whatever. They were more common than people thought because it wasn't spoken about. Sure. So the issue is that many people who are triggered by this may have been affected by this in some way, shape or form that most people don't understand. So like what you're saying, you gotta just, instead of attacking people, because Mike Tyson said it perfectly, social media, you saw the Mike Tyson thing recently. A guy was fucking with Mike Tyson on the plane. Yeah. So Mike Tyson came out and said, social media made all you young kids too comfortable with talking shit at people with no consequences.
Yeah.
And it has.
Yeah.
And this debate is, these Tinderbox events are abusing that social conditioning that has already occurred.
I would also say too, the one, you need to, I saw a lot of memes about the same people that said this about that, also said that about this.
Yeah.
And the first question I asked myself was, is that real or is this just a new
Tinderbox event?
but like a new cohort of people? And then in the sphere of my world, where my screen is my world, I'm seeing a cohort of people that are...
Agreed. So what you're saying is that I see one person I deem as a hypocrite from recent events, therefore everyone on that side's a hypocrite.
Yeah, the next... It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
So you hit one down and then it pops up. There's always... But in my frame, in the frame of social media, that's one cohort.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just don't fall for the...
Don't fall for it.
Keep out of the Tinderbox.
Can we... To assist women who are pro-choice, I had some ideas though.
Okay.
If you want to, one of the things about these issues is I feel like if you really wanted to get a result from men on a subject, I feel like they're marketing problems.
Okay.
I feel like the result you want is not marketed to men in a way that men will understand and respond to.
Okay.
So...
You're going down a dangerous hole, but continue.
So, well, look, for example, I saw a meme going out about, stop schmoshmoshmans at the source, make vasectomies mandatory, because they're reversible, and until a man is mature enough and financially able to, it can be reversed. Oh, the idea of regulating men's bodies makes them uncomfortable. It's not helpful, right? It's very combative. And if I was going to go down the same line, I would say, okay, if you are that pro-life, then don't, stop schmishmorshmans at the source. Don't waste any lives. Men, you're only allowed to ejaculate into a woman for procreation. Because every time you jizz into your jizz sock, you're causing genocide. Make that illegal.
Yeah, that's one thing I really don't like is there's a schmishmorshman thing on the way to work.
Right.
And every so often there's an old man with a sign at the front. And I'm like...
I thought you were going to say, and every now and then there's an old man jerking off out the front.
But I'm like, get your house in order first, dude.
Yeah, it's like, And that's the thing. So, that's the way that I would approach it. It's like, okay, cool. You want to have that right over us. That's perfectly fine. No more jizzing. No more jizzing unless it's for procreation.
Oh, no, but look, I like jizzing. I really like it.
Now, the second idea, and this is probably far more controversial, is you need to market it to men the way that men respond to. We know sex sells. Get a good-looking figurehead, put her up on a billboard, say, hey, blokes, want to smash this? No rubbers, no responsibilities? Pro-choice.
Oh, yeah, okay. Again, I'm not buying into
because unfortunately, and a really good example of this, which again is an internet sensation which happened over the last 12 months, you would have seen these. There's that used car joint that's always got the pictures of the normal tradie red-blooded male picking up the car off the
the
glamoured girl.
Yeah.
And everyone knows what it is, and that's all the comments reflect that. Everyone agrees that this is what's happening, and it's okay and it's funny.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, men are way more likely to agree to your decisions, whether they're good or bad, when they've got an erection. It's a fact of life.
Okay.
How many bad decisions have men made in history with a boner? How many?
Well, but a lot of them have started, a lot of these bad decisions have started with that erection as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you use it. You use your sales tools. You use what you've got.
No. I'm going to put a line right here because it's not an issue. We're buying into it.
I'm not saying for this issue.
By talking about it,
yeah,
we are giving it more credence than what it deserves because it's not even a story.
I'm not saying about this issue. I'm just saying anything in the future. I'm just trying to offer some marketing advice as a sales professional. Any issue in the future, I feel it can be marketed better. I'll give you another example. If I lived in Finland and Finland's Prime Minister told me to get vaccinated, I'd be on my second booster right now. You've seen the Finnish Prime Minister, right?
Yeah.
Far more receptive to her telling me to get vaccinated than I am to a ScoMo or an Albanese or whatever. It's just reality.
Did you hear, is it Hungary's not blocking oil and gas to their country from Russia?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to be...
No, I'm trying to get off the subject as quick as possible.
No, because I mentioned vaccination, I thought that you were going to be mentioning how Denmark has announced they're winding up the vaccine program.
Oh, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
But, the foreign minister from Hungary, and Hungary's in the doldrums at the moment because they're considered far-right extremists as a country.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't blocking oil and gas purchases from Russia because
is that why they're considered far right extremists?
No, it started before that.
Okay,
A lot of that.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of immigration policy, and I think they actually have a right wing political party in power.
Okay.
I believe,
yeah.
But they've been very nationalistic, and they're like, no, any of those things only hurts our people, and we don't have policies that hurt our own people. So we'll continue buying oil and gas from Russia because that's what we were doing before, and I found that.
Which again, so that's an example of these Tinderbox events. Because if you explain that situation to someone, everyone's got something they can get upset about.
Yeah.
Especially, it depends on the way that you explain the story. But what it sounds like Hungary is trying to do is protect their own people first, put their own people first before other countries. But these days, again, social conditioning. We've created a society where putting yourself before anyone else is seen as a bad thing now.
And one more of a story, what has taken an oligarch's yacht going to do?
Gives you a sick yacht.
That's all it does, is give you the sick... Who gets the yacht?
The government.
Yeah, but are they going to use it?
Probably. Or they might just
They're
sell
going to
it.
end up giving it back.
I reckon Boris Johnson's probably getting the yachts, and he's doing like coke parties on them. And I know he doesn't do coke. Sorry, he loves a drink though.
Loves a drink. Loves
Probably will. Maybe they're planning for more lockdowns, but he's going to sail an oligarch's yacht out into international waters and have his staff party. For next
But
time.
don't you find it interesting that that's more of a story, and you see that everywhere, and like how good are we took a yacht. Like there's a war going on.
Yeah.
We took a rich guy's yacht.
Yeah, well, okay, so speaking of Tinderbox events, we mentioned really early on in the Pandy that, and I mentioned that there's a wealth transfer going on. And I was criticised heavily by certain people
I still criticise it.
for saying there was a wealth transfer going on. But the war thing, you've got, especially in America, but obviously we send money too. So you've got American taxpayer dollars, which could, if they approve this extra $33 billion, could be up to $38 billion worth of taxpayer dollars funding weapons and aid being sent to Ukraine. So it's American taxpayer money going to a different country.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, not their money going to a different country. The money stays in America because it's products being purchased from American companies, so they profit and then it's sent overseas.
Yeah.
With no democratic vote from the people on whether or not
yeah.
they do that. So that's one thing. Australia did the same thing. We sent 70 million and then we sent like 4 of those armoured troop carriers as well. I don't know what they're worth, but it's probably not cheap.
Yeah.
Probably get a few Kia Cerados for one of those troop carriers. So you got that. You look at the sanctions that are put on Russia by America and co. Those sanctions don't hurt the oligarchs.
No.
Because the oligarchs already have their means met.
Yeah.
They've got access to anything they need.
Yeah.
Those economic sanctions hurt the people on the ground. So the people who, again, had no democratic decision in invading Ukraine,
Yeah.
right? Because Putin decided to do that.
Yeah.
So those people suffer. The American taxpayer suffers because all the tax dollars go sent overseas instead of being paid for services and stuff that they're probably supposed to be provided. Like, this is what we're talking about when it comes to like wealth transfers. And you look at, so what I found interesting, I had a conversation with someone about this during the week about the Pandy stuff, particularly centered around Australia. And the amount of taxpayer money, and I don't care what your thoughts on the use of this money, but we had products available in all areas, including vaccines, masks, rats, available from Australian companies, which we did not purchase them from.
Yeah.
All of our taxpayer money. So if you're pro-vax, that's totally cool. If you want a vaccine, would you not have preferred our taxpayer dollars go towards an Australian company that has developed one, which is still sitting on the TGA's desk waiting for approval?
Yeah. Which might never get approved.
Which will never get approved because the Australian government signed a commercial and confidence deal with an overseas company so our taxpayer money gets sent overseas. So when I say wealth transfer, this is what I'm talking about. We take taxpayer dollars, we use a hot button Tinderbox event, which we abuse people's good natures because if you speak against that Tinderbox event, you're a bad person.
Yep.
Because if you're anti, then you're going to kill grandma.
Yep.
And then we use that as justification to take your taxpayer money and send it to a multinational company overseas. And every country seems to do this, where they send the money to a different country. There's always a global mixing of...
Yeah, I wonder if it does something about increasing GDP numbers, so like the stats, when you get compared up against other countries, if it looks
I don't think
better.
it's that. I think it saves you from having to account for where the money ends up. Look at what happened with Afghanistan. When the Afghanistan pullout happened, the Prime Minister of Afghanistan, or President, whatever the head was at the time, he bailed with like hundreds of millions of American dollars. So the money gets sent there. We never get a receipt back for what the money's spent on. And I think that's the key to this. If you spend the money internally, we know where it's going. Because the Australian, like say you do this stuff in Australia, we would be going, okay, well this money's been spent on this facility. Or unless they do a commercial and confidence deal, like everything else that's going on. But it's out of sight, out of mind. If you just go, $70 million in aid to Ukraine, whooshka, send it over there. Do any of you know where $1 of that $70 million was spent?
Yeah, no.
There's no accountability.
Yeah.
That's the key. If you take the money off the people and you send it overseas, even if you get money back from overseas, we don't know about it. The government knows that some investments come in. They don't publicise all the money that's come through. Where does the money go? So if you send it overseas, it's out of sight, out of mind. There's no accountability.
That's you assuming that they just want to get rid of money for the sake of getting rid of money. And look, governments suck at spending. We know that. I do think it adds another feather in the bow for crypto, like it, where everything is recorded, blockchained. It's immutable.
Yep.
We know where everything goes, because let's be real, all this inflation explosion has been. This is not a natural event. This is an event that has been mismanaged to a point of collapse. Well, not collapse. Well, the US petrodollar could collapse. That could actually happen, and then our buying power would be severely reduced. We can see the stock market is getting hammered at the moment. Property will get hammered next here in Australia.
I saw an article, again, maybe real, maybe not, but the projections for the national debt in Australia now is projecting out to past the 2050s.
But do you know the personal debt is reduced? Yeah, which is interesting. But again, if I want to talk about a wealth transfer, I'm talking about getting off government operated cash and moving into something that real. And unfortunately, Bitcoin is more real than the Australian dollar.
Yeah, of course. There's separate issues. The getting towards blockchain technology.
But one you can do something about. My one you can do something about. Your one is a much greater issue that...
You still got to pay tax though.
Yeah,
because
for
the
sure.
laws require that we still pay tax regardless of whether you transacting crypto or not.
I'm not saying don't pay tax.
What my concern is that it's that tax money that is being transferred away, which you have to spend regardless.
Yeah, but you never. But what I'm saying though is that if you try to spend more of your life invested in digital assets, and if there is a move to a national digital asset, some of that will be reduced because the transparency should disappear. It's not in their best interest too.
Yeah,
so it probably won't. But once we move to a digital dollar-e-do, which I still think we're eventually going to do anyway, there will be a lot of key crypto pundits making sure that it is on a ledger that can be seen. Yeah,
which, again, I don't trust government with any form of technology.
No, I don't either. But I'm saying, so that's why I would be more about buying an asset that you physically have.
Yeah.
But in a digital asset is something that you have total control.
Yeah, of course. Over. And again,
and it's not. Sorry. What I'm more saying though is no matter what a government does, mismanages, upsets, falsely pumps up, your digital assets will be fine.
Yeah, I think that they're two different issues though. Because what you're saying is exactly true, but that doesn't relate to wealth transfer.
I'm saying there should be you individually. You're talking big picture, but I'm talking about something that you can do yourself to address it.
Yeah, so separate things.
Only thing, sure. But it's tied in. If you do my thing, your thing is mitigated.
It's not though.
It's not totally mitigated, but it's somewhat mitigated.
No, it's not. It's completely not. I think you're missing the point. Whether you protect yourself financially by using digital assets, which is what you're proposing, whether you do that or not, your income and the taxation that we have in this country still occurs, regardless of whether you're financially better off or not.
Incorrect.
Explain.
So if you have a property, you pay land tax. You pay taxes on that property, just for ownership of that property, which is a tax that can then be squandered by governments, which is what you're saying.
Okay.
If you own Bitcoin, there's no tax.
You can't live in a Bitcoin.
No, you can't live. No, I'm saying you can rent to it. Not everyone has one house that they live in. A lot of Australian population has investment properties because that's an investment instrument that they use, and the taxation on the investment is huge. And also the taxes every time you transfer it, they're also huge, right? Stamp duties. It's all just
depends if you're negative gearing.
No, so yeah.
A lot of that stuff is used to actually decrease the amount of tax expenditure.
Yes, negative gearing is a thing. I think it'd be very hard to negative gear in this. In these. Oh no.
It's
not.
hey, for anyone who is in that game, it ain't that hard.
But you can if you are playing less in that system, if you're moving more to digital assets, your overall tax position can be, if done properly, reduced. Therefore, they can't squander it. And that's like that famous clip of Kerry Packer. So,
yeah, but I also don't like, just to make a key point. You said before that I'm saying that it's wastage being sent overseas. I'm not saying it's wastage. I'm saying it's being deliberately done because decision makers are getting paid along the way.
Oh yeah, government's going to corrupt.
That's right. Yeah.
But the only thing you can do, because you're never going to get rid of a corrupt government, it's impossible. People are inherently corrupt. Mm-hmm. A person is as loyal as their choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is something you can do because it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, but you're gonna vote some turd out, and you're gonna put another nugget in there. There's always it's human nature to be corrupt. Mm-hmm. So moving to incorruptible things will help reduce the amount of corruption. But you're never going to do that at government level because for the corrupt reasons, just why a federal ICAC will never come in, just like the ICACs that exist have no teeth, they can't do anything, because why would you create a system that you now can't exploit? No one's going to do that.
So as the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So the best play that you can go, if you're not happy with that, because you're right, whoever gets into power for a long period of time, they will get corrupted. It's just human nature. It's going to happen. So the best case scenario in the upcoming federal election is a hung parliament.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
removing the ability for a party to have the majority to be able to just ram through any legislation they want, which is what we saw in Victoria. Look how fucked Victoria got in such a short period of time because the Labor government had the ability to ram through literally any legislation they wanted because they had those crossbenchers in their pockets.
Yeah, I saw some stat that their debt level is more than Queensland, New South Wales, and South Australia combined.
And what have they received for that?
The worst outcomes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is the best democratic way we can hedge against that sort of fuckery and corruption is a hung parliament. I honestly, if we got a hung parliament and we got 3 straight years at a federal level where literally nothing happened, I would say that is a good result. Because everyone criticises governments for getting in and not achieving anything or not honouring their campaign promises. Honestly, with the amount of stuff that's changed in the last 3 years, because we've all forgotten the key stuff. We've all forgotten the stuff about those new legal powers that the police have been given to be able to access your social media and actually use it and pose as you. We've forgotten that stuff. Yeah. We've forgotten about the digital identity bill that's been brought in and passed in 2021, which is just sitting there ready to go just in case they did want to bring in a social credit system. All of these key structural things we've forgotten about, and a lot of them got passed during the pandemic in a Tinderbox event while everyone was distracted.
For sure.
So don't get distracted, guys. Stay out of the Tinderbox. Be good to each other.
And on that note,
we'll see you next RDO.
Bye.